Tonight on Evening Edition, banking on a March miracle. El Nino returns with a vengeance this weekend.
I said, tell him his mama loves him. And she says, well, I'm sure he can't hear you. I said, tell him anyway.
The medical mystery over a young man's death and the new type of autopsy that may reveal answers to San Diego scientists.
We thought we better get over here. I don't know what 10 years is going to bring, and it might be 20 before it happens again, or it could be next year, but you don't want to take a chance on something like that.
In the heart of Death Valley, a rare display with a limited run. The trend's driving a rare super bloom in the California desert. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. No students will be expelled after last Friday's brawl at Lincoln's High School. That word today from the superintendent of San Diego Unified. KPBS reporter Jean Guerrero has the story.
Cindy Martin joined local religious leaders for a press conference today at St. Stephen's Church, less than 2 miles from the school. Last Friday's incident sent several students and one school police officer to the hospital. 2 students were arrested. Martin says no one will be expelled as a result of the fight.
We as a district have committed in our policy and in our actions to a restorative approach.
She says the focus is to keep the students in school so they can continue to have opportunities while learning from any potential mistakes. She says the decision not to expel anyone is in line with California's education code. The code says that assault on any staff members can be dealt with using alternatives to expulsion. Martin declined to comment on surveillance video of the fight. San Diego County's district attorney has said it cannot be released to the public. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
A Brazilian man risked his life trying to enter the United States illegally. U.S. authorities say the 38-year-old man squeezed into the gas tank of a car crossing the border. This happened Tuesday in Calexico. An imaging device found anomalies in the SUV's gas tank and back seats. The man will face deportation. The driver is a 40-year-old U.S. citizen. Authorities say he faces federal charges. Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman may have visited the U.S. twice while on the run. The Guardian reported today that Rosa Isela Guzman Ortiz, Guzman's daughter, revealed her father visited her in Southern California as a fugitive after escaping a Mexican prison through a tunnel last year. He was recaptured in January after 6 months on the run and was sent back to the same maximum security prison located north of Mexico City. The Guardian was unable to verify his daughter's claims about his visits to California. A spokeswoman for U.S. Customs and Border Protection says the agency has no information substantiating the claims. They're fired up over the shooting of wild parrots in San Diego. A national organization is doing its part to help find the gunman. PETA announced a $5,000 award today for information leading to the arrest and conviction of a suspect. Officials say all the birds were shot with a pellet gun in either Ocean Beach or Point Loma over the past month. 4 of those parrots have died. They're investigating so-called wasteful governing in California. A state taxpayer advocacy group released a report detailing billions of dollars in government waste, fraud, and abuse last year. The report includes several examples. It says some $477 million tax dollars will be spent to pay state workers for vacation days they were allowed to accrue beyond their maximum cap of 80 days. In another case, an environmental protection official racked up $69,000 in travel expenses and sent the bill to a taxpayer-funded agency.
When our adversaries say we need higher taxes, we point to these examples of waste, fraud, and abuse as why taxpayers should demand better spending as opposed to higher taxes.
This report comes after the governor has proposed a $170 billion budget for the state. This represents a nearly 20% increase from last year's spending. It's the end of the line for another presidential candidate who said he saw no path forward after Super Tuesday. Then Carson dropped out of the race. The retired neurosurgeon joked that a lot of people love him, but just won't vote for him. He made the announcement during the Conservative Political Action Conference. He also encouraged supporters to stay involved in the election. Carson says he'll work to encourage evangelicals to vote. San Diego County's unemployment rate dipped to 4.7% in January. That's down 0.1% from the month before and more than a full percentage point below January of last year. The Employment Development Department reports the county's rate is well below the state average of 5.8%. Over the entire year, San Diego added more than 38,000 non-farm jobs, with growth in nearly all sectors. Helping San Diego neighbors own the American dream. A two-day event kicked off today to help prospective home buyers make their dreams a reality. Sustainable home ownership. That's the goal behind Wells Fargo's $5 million commitment to boost the home ownership landscape in San Diego County. The program is called Neighborhood Lift. Prospective home buyers who are mortgage ready could get a matching contribution for a down payment, up to $7,500. Celia Lanning from Wells Fargo says coming up with a down payment is one of the biggest barriers of home ownership.
What's great about this program is they can layer other programs. If there's a city within San Diego County that has an additional program, they can layer that.
To be eligible, prospective home buyers need to meet the median income of $81,000 for a family of 4 and attend an 8-hour home buyer education class. You don't need a Wells Fargo loan to qualify.
We are still asking that you are credit worthy. You need to be approved for a home loan because we want to help people stay in their homes.
Maya Trabulsi, KPBS News. And KPBS videographer Roland Lizarrando helped produce that story. Trade show bookings are blowing past last year's pace at the San Diego Convention Center. A new report shows 34 events have been booked at the Bayside facility for future years. They are expected to attract nearly 500,000 people. At the same point last year, 13 conventions had been booked. The report expects to see at least 60 events booked during this fiscal year. The data will be presented next Thursday to the City Council's Economic Development Committee. You better dust off your umbrella this weekend. A storm system is making its way to San Diego. Steph Davis has the weekend forecast on tonight's KPBS Weather Report.
Happy Friday, everyone. Well, we do have some wet weather to contend with farther to the north of our area. You'll notice some bands of rain here across the Bay Area, south towards Fresno, and clouds building in as well. But taking a closer look across Southern California, largely dry conditions for the San Diego area, just some clouds building in. And that's what we can expect as we head throughout the overnight hours. But we do have some wet weather on the way as we look ahead towards the weekend. So for tonight itself, things looking good in Borrego Springs, mild with overnight lows around 56 degrees. Cloudy and dry in Mount Laguna. Your low is 41. 49 in Ramona tonight, 55 in Oceanside. Temperatures in San Diego also remaining mild, around 60 degrees. Looking ahead to the day tomorrow, we will remain dry throughout the day on Saturday, but we're going to see a storm system kind of work its way into the area. So during the day, we're going to see strong winds and rain across much of the Golden State as far south as Los Angeles, though us here in San Diego still going to remain dry for now. But if you're heading to the beaches for your Saturday, there is a high surf advisory in effect by the National Weather Service until Tuesday. So definitely want to exercise caution if you're heading to the water. Now this rain will sink south into San Diego Saturday night into your Sunday, and then another storm system will enter in off the Pacific for your Monday. So enjoy the dry conditions tonight and tomorrow because you're going to need the umbrellas as we wrap up the weekend and kick off early next week. Here's a look at your 5-day outlook for the coast. Saturday, mix of clouds and sun with highs in the upper 60s. Then we'll see that wet weather arrive Saturday night into Sunday with a high of 65. Another storm system impacting the area on Monday, breezy, and some of this rain can be locally heavy at times, so do watch for travel delays. We'll finally dry things out Tuesday and into your Wednesday. The 5-day outlook inland looks very similar with that rain arriving Saturday night and into Sunday. The next system arrives Monday with wind and heavy rain, and then looking ahead to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we'll get some relief from the wet weather. The mountains also going to be dealing with some precipitation, cooler with rain on Sunday. Your high is 45. Chilly and rainy for your Monday, kind of a dreary day here with highs only in the 30s, and then temperatures will rebound as we look ahead to the midweek for next week. For the deserts, cooler for your Sunday with a high of 71. Cooler, we'll even catch some showers on Monday with a high of 61, and then getting back to normal Tuesday and into your Wednesday. Steph Davis, KPBS News.
They're hoping for a March miracle. California state officials hope a new round of storms will boost the snowpack in the Sierra. Many areas of the state set new record high temperatures in February with spring and summer-like weather. March is expected to be cooler and wetter. National Weather Service forecasters say March should bring several feet of new snow to the Sierra Nevada.
Actually, there's been a little bit more rain in the northern part of California than we would expect with a typical El Nino, but we are now getting into this kind of a real El Nino pattern, so we'll see where we end up. We'll probably end up being closer to what we were kind of expecting in the end anyway.
Northern California is already seeing rain. The strongest part of the system is expected to hit tomorrow. Right now, there's a carpet of color in the heart of Death Valley. Tourists are flocking to see this rare wildflower super bloom. Associated Press reporter Jillian Flaccus says time is running out to see it all.
Across this California desert, a gold boom. The kind that's rich in senses, not dollars.
Oh, is there bugs on it? Smell that? Does it smell?
Millions of bright yellow wildflowers called desert gold are carpeting Death Valley National Park. A stunning super bloom that happens about once a decade in one of the hottest and driest places in the world. The result of rare fall storms that dumped more rain in 2 weeks than normally falls in 2 years.
Normally there are a few of them around, but the last time there were blankets of color like this was in the year 2005. Last year before that was 1998.
Smile. Death Valley, best known for being the lowest point in North America, 282 feet below sea level, now a showcase for a different kind of wonder. Tourists soaking up the colors. Donna Spinella of Rochester, New York, came with friends from Nevada to see nature's paintbrush.
There's a sense of the vastness of the beauty. And not just the beauty of an individual flower, but this collective beauty that is very hard to imagine in a small setting like a garden or something like this when you see it spread out.
Less showy, but equally beautiful. A supporting cast that includes purple phacelia, desert 5-spot, the delicate white gravel ghost, and several varieties of desert primrose. But like most good things, this treat won't last. The flowers will peak in the next few weeks.
We thought we better get over here. I don't know what 10 years is going to bring, and it might be 20 before it happens again, or it could be next year, but you don't want to take a chance on something like that.
A rare display with a limited run. Gillian Flaccus, Associated Press, Death Valley, California.
Tuesday was super for Donald Trump, who keeps on rolling, but a San Diego lawsuit says Trump University was a fraud. Tijuana's police chief is ousted, and taking the trolley, it might be better to pay cash. Join us at the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
A knife that reportedly turned up at O.J. Simpson's former home is being analyzed by L.A. police for any possible connection to the stabbing deaths of Simpson's ex-wife and her friend. Simpson was acquitted of murder charges in that case. The weapon used in the killings has been a mystery for decades. Former AP reporter Linda Deutsch covered the Simpson trial in the 90s and says the knife could not be used as evidence against him.
And he cannot be tried again. It's double jeopardy if he's tried again for the same crime. So if anything, it's a curiosity. It's a piece of evidence, maybe, that will maybe satisfy people's curiosity and maybe will not.
Deutsch says, if anything, the knife may give people a sense of closure. The U.S. Supreme Court has rolled back a Louisiana abortion law enacted in 2014. Opponents of the law say regulations would have left the state with only one abortion clinic. This decision comes after a similar case involving regulations in Texas was taken to court this week. The decision for that case is not expected before June. California's e-cigarette industry is taking a hit with new legislation aiming to regulate vaping. The new law calls for classifying e-cigarettes as tobacco products, which means they will be regulated in the same way other tobacco products are. Health experts say vaping is one of the biggest potential dangers to the state's youth, and the new measure will make vaping much less accessible to teenagers.
Well, I think you're going to see more changes in behavior, actually. I mean, because essentially what this bill does is says anywhere you can't smoke, you can't vape. So you won't see vaping on planes or movie theaters or in workplaces. Anywhere where it's unlawful to smoke, it will be unlawful to use an e-cigarette product.
This e-cigarette legislation comes in a package of other tobacco control bills. It also calls for raising the legal age a person can buy tobacco products from 18 to 21 years of age. Each year, thousands of young, healthy people suddenly die, and doctors don't know why. Scientists in San Diego are starting to solve some of these medical mysteries. KPBS science reporter David Wagner explains how their discoveries can have a profound ripple effect on their loved ones.
Darty Robinson is the type of person who keeps organized files. She's a paralegal, often juggling many cases at once, so orderly record keeping is key. But one of the files this Portland, Oregon mother keeps has nothing to do with her job.
This is my Daniel investigation file.
This case dates back to a call she got a year and a half ago. It was about her son, Daniel.
I got a call out of the blue from his girlfriend. And, she said the paramedics were there working on Daniel, that she had found him, that he was blue and unresponsive. And I told her, I said, tell him his mama loves him. And she says, well, I'm sure he can't hear you. I said, tell him anyway. And so she did.
She texted her family, telling them to pray for Daniel. In tears, she left the office and got in her car.
And on the way home, I got the call that there was nothing they could do, and that he was gone.
Daniel was 29 and otherwise healthy. Darty says he was sweet and had a knack for cooking. No one knew why he died so suddenly.
That was, to me, really the worst part, is because the word to us initially was they thought that, he must have committed suicide. He must have taken something. And I kept saying, that doesn't make sense.
Darty didn't get any answers until after Daniel's memorial service, when she got the results from an autopsy back. She still keeps that report in her file so she can go back and reread its conclusion.
Autopsy revealed no evidence of trauma to explain death.
The autopsy pointed to problems with Daniel's heart, and that gave Darty some peace of mind. At least now she knew he had not killed himself.
The manner of death is natural.
But the autopsy also left her unsettled. If this could kill Daniel at 29, could it strike her other biological children?
That was the question. Is it going to happen again? Which one of my kids? Me. I'm okay if it's me, but I'm not okay if it's my kids.
Not long after Darty got the autopsy, she read an LA Times story about a new study happening in San Diego. Researchers at the Scripps Translational Science Institute were using gene sequencing to take another look at cases like her son's. They wanted to go beyond standard autopsies in situations when young, seemingly healthy people suddenly died. They wanted to perform what they called molecular autopsies. At first, their plan was to focus on cases local to San Diego, but Darty was persistent. Scripps scientist Ali Torkamani says one of the reasons they agreed to take on Daniel's case was a strong family history of early heart failure.
The fact that there was more than one sudden death in the family at a young age sort of highlighted the point for us. This is likely a genetic issue.
So this is my dad. He was in the Navy.
Daniel, at 29, was by far the youngest, but a number of Darty's relatives had died from sudden heart failure in their 40s and 50s. Her dad had his first major heart attack at 52.
There's my will, and there's my insurance policies and my bills.
Darty has been prepared for her own sudden death for years.
And then there's little Mr. Daniel.
With strong clues that Daniel's death may have been related to his DNA, the Scripps researchers sequenced genes from his heart tissue. They also sequenced his mom and dad.
And that's when we found this mutation in this gene TRPM4.
Torquemani says mutations on this gene have been known to cause a disorder called progressive familial heart block. It short-circuits the heart's electrical signals, eventually causing the heart to just stop beating.
And it's that mutation that we believe is the cause of sudden death in Daniel and other family members.
The mutation is likely to be causative for sudden death.
The researchers found the same mutation in Darty. She was the one who passed it down to Daniel. And because it's an autosomal dominant gene, there's a 50% chance she passed it down to her other children, too.
And then that's Daniel.
Scripps director Eric Topol oversees the study. He says not every case they look at is this clear-cut, but he thinks Darty's case illustrates how a genetic discovery in cases like this can provide valuable, even life-saving information to surviving family members.
Because this is something that is eminently preventable with things like a defibrillator. So, whereas all these relatives through many generations had sudden death, we may be able to actually preempt this in the future, and that's exciting.
Darty is now considering getting a surgically implanted device to protect her heart from what happened to Daniel's.
Okay, go get it.
The researchers still don't really know why the mutation would kill Daniel at 29, but leave his mother unaffected at 60.
She's not going to behave. Hey, come here.
But Darty says it would be foolish for her not to take precautions.
So here's where I emailed Kathy.
She's now also on a mission to get other family members tested for the mutation.
We need to test Mary's kids.
She thinks it's important to make sure Daniel did not die in vain.
Daniel did something significant. He gave us answers that'll benefit not just dozens, but potentially down the road hundreds of people, maybe even thousands. Because I don't believe that this is just limited to my family.
David Wagner, KPBS News.
Marines at Camp Pendleton are testing out new robots to help prepare them for the battlefield. The wig-wearing, human-looking robots move around on 2 wheels. They can sustain thousands of gunshots, allowing Marines to enhance their live-fire training. The robots are programmed to be realistic and unpredictable. They can slow down, speed up, and swerve just like real combatants might behave.
They play different scenarios for us, such as hostage scenarios, and we just practice our marksmanship on moving targets.
The robots can also be programmed to respond to each other when they're hit or converge and move toward Marines in an offensive response. The Marine Corps is thoroughly testing the technology before implementing it in regular combat training. Whaling was a booming business in the 1800s. EarthFix reporter Ashley Ahern explains why climate scientists are finding value today in the logbooks from those whaling ships.
The year was 1897, one of the coldest and deadliest in maritime history. But the men aboard the Belvedere didn't know what they were in for, or that scientists more than 100 years later would benefit from their tragic voyage. Every spring, ships headed up the west coast, following the sea ice as it melted back into the Arctic. They were hunting bowhead whales. Their blubber was used for oil, their baleen for women's corsets. It was a booming business. Some say whaling was more lucrative than the gold rush. For the Belvedere, the whaling season of 1897 was going great, until September. A big sheet of sea ice came down out of the Arctic Ocean and pinned the Belvedere and 6 other ships against the coast of Alaska. That left 200 men trapped in the Arctic as the winter set in. 2 nearby ships sink, and all the men pile into the Belvedere, 150 men in one ship. They're running out of food, so they start shooting seals and polar bears. Some get scurvy. One sailor has such a bad case of syphilis that he commits suicide. But what's the one thing they do every day to hold on to their sanity? They keep a weather diary. Through the frozen winter months, the whalers aboard those ships took note of the temperature, barometric pressure, ice location, and wind directions in the ship's logbook. And it turns out, data like this is valuable to climate scientists today. They're gathering it from thousands of old whaling ship logbooks, like the Belvedere's, and plugging it into a big computer program to recreate historical weather patterns. and compare them to the way things look in the Arctic today. Bottom line, if you were a whaler today, it would be highly unlikely that you'd encounter the same treacherous ice conditions that the crew of the Belvedere saw. But what happened to those guys anyway? 16 of them died. After 10 months trapped in the ice, though, the rest of them were finally free. But instead of heading home, they went right back to hunting whales.
Reporting by Ashley Ahern of EarthFix, an environmental reporting project made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
I'm so looking forward to seeing your mother again. When I'm with her, I'm reminded of the virtues of the English.
But isn't she American?
Exactly.
Ouch. Nobody can quite deliver a zinger like the Dowager Countess on Downton Abbey, played by Maggie Smith. But her reign as TV's sharpest wit is about to end, unfortunately, as Downton's last episode is set to air this Sunday. In its 6 seasons, the show set in the English countryside has taken audiences from the beginning of the 20th century through the roaring 20s, through a tumultuous time in which the people's lives changed dramatically. The British soap opera is the highest-rated series in public television history. You can, of course, catch the series finale right here on KPBS Sunday night at 9 o'clock. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us from all of us here at KPBS. Thanks for watching.